One. Welcome to the NAO show where we have nothing else to say but bad shit about FNG. Let's start the show. Welcome to the show, Tank Top Mike and Marky Mark. How y'all doing?
I was doing better a few minutes ago.
Then we started looking at the facts. I'm doing pretty well, man. We got the NAO trade show today.
Yeah, we're going to talk all things FNG and how he's doing this rebuild. We are going to jump in the weeds on his last four trades and how Ian can just go literally to anyone, FNG or Silly Dilly, and just be like, here's my crap. Take it for a pick. All right. Let's get into the first pick. Let's go.
Yeah, first trade, that is. And it was with your buddy Ian and a handful of that crap. So we got Ian receiving Deebo Samuel, and in return, FNG received KJ Hamler.
Woo, what a pick.
A 2022 third rounder via the Underdogs. A 2023 third rounder, which would be Steals, and a 2024 third rounder, which would be Steals.
Those are all going to be real high in those rounds, aren't they?
I don't know. Mike, you want to start us off on that one? I don't think you like that trade too much from what I've heard.
This is the only one that I don't like for anybody. I don't like it for Ian. I don't like it for FNG. I just think it was dumb. I think everyone's dumb.
A new tank top Mike swag going here, man. It was just dumb, man. Move on.
I agree. It was just stupid. Like, what?
Hamler's going to drop Hamler in 2 weeks. Everyone knows that's coming.
No. Hamler is going to be the best guy on special teams they got. All right. Come on.
Yeah, return touchdowns count too, don't they? So.
Yeah, when it happens once in a blue moon.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good trade on paper at all, man. Had Ian winning this by a bunch. Hamler, I mean, you got Cortland Sutton, you got Judy, you got Noah Fant. So
Tim Patrick,
yeah.
The water boy.
Thank you. No, yeah. Now Tim Patrick.
The water boy.
No slouch at all, man. So Hamler's, there's a deep pecking order that he's trying to get targets in. Definitely a fast guy. I love his athleticism, but realistically, what's the volume going to be like? I just don't think it's going to be there.
What's the ceiling on him, do you think, this season?
I mean, really, if he gets 70 targets, that's probably a decent number for him. But that's not going to do it in fantasy. I mean,
will he break 40 points this year in fantasy football? He
could. He's a guy, if they get him the ball, let him make some rack, some yak, whatever you want to call it. He could do some things, but it's just going to be, I think it's going to be hit or miss. I don't think the volume is going to be there.
He had 56 targets last year.
56. I was going to say 70 would be, and Sutton will be back.
Without Sutton. Yeah.
Yeah. Sutton will be back. So we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be. So I do have some inside information on that.
Ooh, breaking news on the NAO show.
Yeah. To FNG's credit, he was trying to get a second rounder there. And the guy that will not be named, that guy, he said he had concerns about Deebo Samuel's health, about his injuries,
Yeah, convenient.
And then he was kind of the Hamler whisperer and said that, hey man, if Aaron Rodgers comes there, man, Hamler's stock's going to jump up a whole bunch. So I guess he gave FNG the warm fuzzies and he pulled the trigger without getting that second rounder. I would have liked it better if he got a second rounder in that deal.
Yeah, if Aaron Rodgers comes to Denver and half the wide receiver core gets the flu in one day, he could have a pretty good day.
I would have liked it for Ian's side if he sent a single second or a second in there instead of just all his thirds. I think going out to 2024 on Ian's side, I mean, if we're trading those picks, come to me with some of these. I'll take your 2024 picks.
Yeah,
I've said
no
that
shit.
before.
Shoot.
I have no problem with Debo. I think it makes Ian's team better, obviously.
Yeah.
But
He's got injury concerns, though, Michael.
yeah, now you got all those thirds for him. I don't know.
Yeah. Injury concerns. I'm doing you a favor, taking them off your hands. Yeah, the difference in that trade was Will Fuller. If you looked at the points, so it's he should FNG should have got a little bit more out of this one. I know we all know that he's going for picks. He's out there standing on the street corner saying tricks for picks, So hey, we're all lining up. So
Take my tricks. I want your.
yeah.
That's FNG.
Yeah, let's move on to the second trade.
All right, let's do it.
That one was between yours truly, McJammer, and FNG. So I received Daryl Henderson, and FNG received Boston Scott, a 2022 second, and that was via the underdogs, and a 2023 third, which was my pick. Mike, you want to start us off on that one there?
This one seems better on paper than the last one. That's for sure. I obviously get why you want Henderson. That's pretty obvious. I think having the handcuff to Akers is more important than having the handcuff to Miles Sanders. Makes perfect sense on your side.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think if we were talking about a rebuild for FNG, I'm not sure Boston Scott's a guy that I'm targeting necessarily. And now we're just hoarding all the third round picks. Really for the foreseeable future. As far as sleeper allows us to see third round picks, FNG wants them.
Yeah, we'll all check out in the third round and come back and see what FNG did.
The next 3 years of thirds. Yeah, we don't need to participate.
Tank Top Mike, Boston Scott's one of the best running backs he's got on his team.
He is now. Yeah.
He might start a few games.
I hope not.
He's gonna shore up that flex spot with a Boston Scott.
You got any thoughts on this one, Sean? Besides what you just said there about Boston?
I think it made sense on your part, and I think you gave up a fair offer for him. To be honest, I think this is the best trade of the 4 that we're going to talk about. So,
well, it's the only one on my calculator that came up fair trade. Oh wait,
therefore it is decided.
Did I say that? Did I say that word? I'm sorry. We promised not to use that word anymore. It's a controversial word. That measuring apparatus. Yeah. Now this one, yeah, of course. Huh?
Is that what we're calling it now?
I don't know what we're going to call it. I'm just not supposed to say that bad word, man. It gets people tilting. So, yeah, of course, I wanted to get my my handcuff there, and we had talked about a week earlier where FNG did his famous. We kind of had a verbal commitment. I went to him. I was like, "Hey, man, I'm interested in Henderson. What do you think's the starting point?" And he said, "I think he's worth at least a second rounder." And I came back and I said, "Yeah, you know what? I agree with that." And so I offered him a second rounder and a flyer, a Boston Scott type, or, Ty Johnson was still on my team at that time, and Kerryon Johnson, guys like this, flyer, Mike Boone, and then he comes back with this fancy offer. We went from 3 moving pieces to like 7 moving pieces, and I'm giving up more picks. And I'm like, what the hell is this shit, man? I thought we had a kind of a verbal agreement here, So, that one, I just rejected that one and didn't talk to him for a couple of days because I was kind of miffed, So went back to him about a week later and was like, "Hey, man, you want to talk about Henderson for that second again and maybe make it a little more simple this time?" And so that's where we got to this one here. He picked Boston Scott. I gave him a list. I was like, "I'll give you a running back flyer," and I defined that as like Kerryon, Mike Boone, Boston Scott. Seems like there was one other guy in there maybe, but that's the guy he picked. He wanted Boston Scott. So I kind of feel like Kerryon could be, I think Kerryon is a better version of Boston Scott, a bigger and better version of Boston Scott, but we'll see how they use him, So I'm pretty happy still having Sanders and Kerryon Johnson. And not real sad to see Boston Scott go. So, but it was a fair trade. It was a fair trade, I think.
On to the next one.
All right, let's do it. The next one was between the underdogs and FNG. So the underdogs received Allen Robinson,
Ooh, continue.
a 2022 third rounder, which was my pick originally, and a 2023 third rounder, their own pick. In return, FNG got James Robinson and a 2022 first, which was my pick. So a lot of my picks were involved in this trade right here. What do you think about that one, Mike?
Now, this one, I know Sean's not a big fan of this one. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of it, but if you're talking rebuilds again, this is kind of what I expected to see more of. You know, you're sending Robinson, he's not old by any means. He's only 27.
Yeah, I think 27
But,
is right.
you know, he's right at that age we all talk about with receivers. He's still productive.
Yep.
A team like the Underdogs, that's who they're going to go after. And in return, you're getting a nice first round pick, nice crisp first. They do exist. They're not, you can get other picks in thirds, you know, and a guy like Robinson, you know, and he was last year, obviously he was the league rookie of the year. I'm sorry.
That's right. NAO Rookie of the Year. Woohoo.
And this episode went to shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is what I would have expected from a rebuild type of trade, fiesta we had the other day. Sure, there's question marks with Robinson, you know, with what the Jaguars are doing as an entire football team, but you know he's productive. You know he's going to see the field. He's young, and you get a first. That's what I would have wanted back.
Yeah.
I like the first for A-Rob. That's a solid trade for him, and I think giving up 2 third-round picks for a 1B prospect, and probably we'll see a lot more of the field at the beginning of the season, I would expect, and it kind of tail off towards the end of the season. He's going to be 1A at the beginning, then probably 1B by the end, kind of like a Dobbins did last year, where he was kind of the 1B at the beginning and then definitely a solid 1A leaving the season. So
good point.
I would trade him if I had Dobbins. I'd trade him.
Yeah, if I had Dobbins right now, I would trade him to a team that just put an offer in for him. Yeah. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. We can slow play this as long as you want, Goofy. Stop denying what's the inevitable.
Just let it happen, Goofy.
Let it happen.
Yeah.
What happened? I'm sure that's not the first time that guy's been told that.
Well, I like that he got the first rounder for sure. I think his starting running backs before he got Robinson were Le'Veon Bell and Mark Ingram. So I think he needed a little help there.
You think?
You know, so yeah, Robinson, I agree. I think that assessment for Robinson is probably pretty good. I think it's going to be it's a shared workload there. And if Etienne stays healthy, then maybe he ascends over Robinson. They have nothing invested into him, and he's not their pick. Etienne is their guy. So I think Robinson will probably fade at some point. But he was so good last year. I'm pulling for the guy. I'm really pulling for the guy to do something this year.
Think of this, there, Mark and Mark.
Yeah.
The Underdogs turned the 5th round pick into a Pro Bowl wide receiver and 2 third-round picks.
Yeah, and it wasn't their original pick. They don't get that credit. They don't get that credit, but yeah, they did. They traded for him, and then they turned him into something else. So it's pretty good on their part. The trade to me, the numbers say that Underdogs won this one by a few hundred points, and they, if the draft picks weren't involved there, it might have looked a little better if it was just A-Rob for J-Rob in the first. But they got those picks. I can just hear Brandon saying, "Tell you what, throw in a future third rounder, and you got a deal." And he probably fell for it. Usually it's a 4th rounder.
It's usually a 4th. Yeah.
Well, he had to take into consideration who he was talking to.
Yeah,
Mr. Third Rounder.
Yeah, they had fresh meat, so they exploited it, man, and they got a 3rd rounder this time instead of 4th rounder. So
Brandon missed his calling. He should have sold fucking lug lugger vehicles on the side of the road.
But I still like it. I still like it for FNG because he got a first rounder, and now he's got, I think, fourth. We'll talk about that, or four of those. We'll talk about that a little later. But that made the trade okay in my mind. The only thing I'm thinking there is that the reason there's a difference is because Evan always wants to tell you on a first round pick that he doesn't value it like the calculator does. You have to add to it, because you have to think about the player that can be taken there. So you got to go with that value. I've heard that from him several times now. I'm wondering though, I'm going to call him out a little bit right here. I think when he's receiving the first rounder, I don't think he adds that value to it. I think he's glad to take what the calculator says. It might be interesting to do some research on that.
And we know he likes keep trade cut, and on keep trade cut, you can slide your value of your draft picks. So I think he slides it one way,
slides it up, and then slides it
the other
down,
way.
and yeah.
Here's the screenshot. Don't look up here though.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Sean?
I think you're really taking away from our man Evan. He is an honest individual. He would never do anything to benefit him and his team and make him sound really, really right. So I think you guys are being real mean to Evan.
So my assessment as Brandon and Evan as akin to used car salesman is not right. You don't think?
No, that's dead on. But I just felt like I needed to.
Give me a fourth, and I'll put you in a car today.
You had that fifth, and we'll put air in the tires for you. Shoot.
All right. Well, we're on to our fourth trade, which is kind of a whole.
It's a doozy. It's a whopper.
All right. Yeah, we'll look at a glass half full here. We've got Steele and FNG. So we've got Steele receiving a fourth rounder, which was FNG's. And we got FNG receiving Jared Goff. Mike, start us off again, if you would, please.
I have been waiting to get to this pick this whole time, this trade. This is, quite honestly, this could be the greatest trade in the history of our league right now. I think the way that FNG went about his rebuild, this is just the cherry on top. This is his crowning achievement of getting Jared Goff for a fourth. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. I don't know about you guys, but I've tweeted this out to every fantasy podcast, every fantasy analyst that I know of on Twitter. I'm getting it out there. I'm showing. Look at that. Look at what this guy's doing. Look at this rebuild. ESPN put it on SportsCenter. Stuart Scott, rip Stuart Scott. But you got to get back here and you got to look at this, because this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
It's his exclamation point. He can rest now. He can relax from his labors.
He's cool on the other side of the pillow right here. Jared Goff.
What do you think, Sean?
I just want to take a quick poll. Raise your hand if you were peddled Jared Goff today.
Yeah.
It wasn't today, but it was recently. I'll raise my hand.
That's all I got to say about that.
Interesting. So it wasn't Steele's first choice, huh?
Steele came walking up in his old lady attire going, "Please, sir, please take my quarterback. I have riches beyond belief." And I'm like, "Hell no, lady, get the fuck out. That way. Keep going."
Yeah, Mike, what was his quote to you about his quarterback?
He had an embarrassment of riches.
Embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, so
I
now
think he was looking in the mirror naked again.
He dropped Cam and then traded Jared Goff for a fourth.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he's just an embarrassment. Yeah.
Embarrassment, period.
He offered Jared Goff to me for a third, though, so I was pretty offended.
Oh, wow.
Me too.
Well, we never got an offer on the table, but I picked up Ben Roethlisberger on waivers, and he comes to me. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were in the market for a quarterback. I might have a proposition for you."
You said it wrong. "Oh, I didn't know you were in the market for a quarterback."
Oh my God, he's gonna tear you up for that horrible accent right there. Or maybe he's trying to change to American, so maybe that explains what that was.
He did overcompensate with his truck. It's really redneck for him.
Yeah.
Well, that's our show.
Well, I actually had FNG winning this trade pretty handily to the tune of Keyshawn Vaughn. Not a bad trade for FNG, and he's got Lamar's going to be a starter, of course, but now he's got Goff and Daniel Jones. He can kind of leave Zach Wilson on his taxi squad and let these guys duke it out to see who's going to be number 2, see who's going to do something, who's not. So not a bad move for him, not a bad depth piece for him. So
I don't mind him giving up a 4th round pick for a guy that you want.
I think it's pretty funny that Ian finally had to settle for a 4th rounder. He didn't drop him. So at least he got a 4th rounder. He called it a lottery ticket. He got him a lottery ticket. So see if he can hit the
lottery ticket.
Hey, James Robinson, we talked about, went in the 5th. So you never know. There's always one. I think every rookie draft has one that was picked at the end that outshines his draft capital. So I think we wanted to talk a little bit now about FNG's roster. He had all these trades, and we'll see how the rebuild's going. Let's do a update assessment on his roster. Mike, you want to start us off on that one?
I think when we started talking that we were going to finish with this afterwards, I went back to our Dynasty Ranker website that we used for our ranking show the other week. So his overall Dynasty roster, taking everything into account, he's actually bumped himself up to 6th overall.
Wow. He was consensus like 10, right?
Yeah.
In the rankings.
Yeah. He's getting held up pretty heavily by his draft picks.
All 15 of them next year.
I think I'm looking at it quick. He has the most draft capital of anybody, obviously, after all that. 4 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and then I think next year. So, yeah, held up by that. But, he did bump himself up. And I guess, like we all know, we're in a dynasty. So it's not just your starting lineup this year. It's what you got going on in the future as well, because his starting lineup is still 10th overall. So,
wow. 10 picks in 2022 I'm seeing right now. What do we think about his starting lineup, his depth? Does it look like he's gotten anything to compete? I mean, because he gave up some big names there with Samuel and Robinson, Henderson, a good handcuff. What do we think about his?
Let's define the word compete.
Yeah, well, that's
score points.
Is it to put points on a board? Because he might be able to do that.
I guess when I say compete, is he gonna win anything this year? Is it gonna be just a wait till next year's draft? And
it seems like it's a wait till next year kind of thing for me. Yeah.
Wait until next year, and then not all those picks are gonna boom in their first year. So it's gonna be not only next year, but 2 years maybe.
The only thing that I'm seeing when we're talking about next year, because obviously this year, and I have no problem with, being less competitive this year for going into next year. The team that he took over wasn't so stellar either. So, you may as well sell what you can and move on to next year already.
Yeah, true. I mean,
but the only thing I'm concerned about is you start looking at whose picks he has. And
good point. Yeah.
He has his own. He has his first next year, his own. But if you're the worst, really bad, you're looking at what, the 7th pick, or no, the 4th pick. I'm sorry.
4th pick. Yeah.
4th pick.
Yeah.
So you got 4, and then you have Ian's first round pick next year, which is going to be 7th overall, probably 7th, 8th, or 9th. You got McJammers, who's going to be a top pick, and then you got the underdogs, who's going to be a top. I mean, you're looking at the picks 8, 9, and 10 right there, probably. Based off some of the rankings we saw last week. So.
Right. If everything holds and we finish in where we should in the rankings, then yeah, those are going to be low picks, lower first round picks. So
that's what I'm a little concerned about, I think, for that. I mean,
now, this year Dylan traded a couple of those low picks and got up to the 4th pick. Maybe he can do something like that. I'll give you 2 for one higher one, maybe he can do something like that. But if he stays,
what you say, he has 10 picks next year. I expect some of those to be moved around either before then or draft day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we saw this rookie draft, we saw some picks being moved for older guys and moved from a rebuild to a all right, let's win now type deal.
So especially when they get into the second and third, because he's got all those picks, so he'll be moving around.
I look at those as all add-ins to move into the first round. Like, I'll give you a first round, and I'll give you a second, a couple thirds. Let me move up 4 spots to go get a guy, you know?
Yeah.
But he needs to build the whole team, so maybe he doesn't do that. Because his best RB2 is Mark Ingram.
Yeah, I'm really worried about his running backs because you look at the list and they all need something to be relevant. Right now, you can't count on any of them. So they need an injury or they need to make a jump in training camp or something. None of these guys are the kind of guys that you can plug right in. So he really can't afford any kind of injuries there. Ingram, I don't know if you can count on him at all. He's probably buried. They get like 6 guys there, and I think Lindsey's probably the guy that's going to take that job, and then David Johnson maybe, and then
Right.
Ingram's. Yeah, what the heck is Ingram going to do? So
obviously Thielen's going to be a solid wide receiver for him. I think he's going to put up another 8 to 1,000 yards, 800 to 1,000 yards again this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's speaking of Thielen. I was kind of surprised about him staying on the team as well as Kelsey staying on the team. If you're talking about a rebuild, I mean, maybe he's not done. Obviously, I know we got a long time before the season starts.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some more moves, some of those kind of guys.
Yeah, I'd be moving those guys, and maybe he can move them, down the line when there's an injury and somebody needs a guy to plug in just for this year.
I was going to say the same thing there, Marky Mark.
Sorry, I jumped on you, man.
I was going to say that too.
Yeah. Mark is taking all our freaking shit. I was going to say, if a guy's on the outskirts, maybe in that 5th, 6th spot, trying to get into the playoffs, trying to get that guy, they might go spend a first-round pick on Kelsey. I mean, no one's going to bat an eye on somebody dropping a first-round pick for Kelsey, or Thielen.
If it can put him over the top,
Yeah, if it's getting him into the playoffs and Kelsey has a wide receiver 1 output like he did last year.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, we got a little bit of time left. I thought maybe we would revisit the trade because we just had a player dropped that was part of the trade. And thought it might be fun to revisit that. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
We got just a little bit of time. So James Washington was dropped from Dylan's Silly Dilly's roster, and he was part of the trade. So let me remind you of the trade, and let's just talk about what it's looking like now. So Dylan got James Washington, N'Keal Harry, James White, and Damian Harris. And he sent to Steele for all of that his first rounder.
Hate it.
His second rounder, his fourth rounder, and Sean's second rounder. I know we're bringing up some bad memories here, but I saw that he dropped James Washington, and the first thing I thought was, holy shit, he dropped one of the guys that he traded away his whole draft for. So
we said it was going to happen. We said that he traded a bunch of picks for guys he's going to drop later. That's exactly what we had said.
And he did. He dropped James Washington. Did you guys see? It was just a little blurb, but I saw something that said N'Keal Harry is a cut candidate this year.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a shame. The guy was a first rounder, but he has been a big bust up to this point. James White is 29 years old. One of the few guys in the
position does he play?
You know what position he plays, but he's 29 years old. Yeah. He's old for that position, isn't he? I like Damian Harris. Sean and I have a bet. I say he's going to be running back 2. Sean says no. The bet is picking up the tab at one of our favorite local restaurant and bars. So we'll see what happens there.
Free meal for me. That's what's going to happen.
So let me tell you guys what. So these are I want to tell you guys the picks. Here's the picks. Dylan got his 4th rounder back, and he picked Etienne. But while his first rounder, did I say 4th rounder? I'm sorry, his first round. It was pick 4.
Yeah.
When he gave it away, his pick made its way around the league a little bit. So Ian used it in the trade to get Jonathan Taylor.
He's no slouch.
And then that went to Ricky. So then Ricky used that pick to get 2 late round first rounders to give that 4th round pickup. So 2 guys benefited off him trading that, and Dylan ended up picking up ATN, but he kind of could have done that in the first place. And then maybe Steele doesn't have JT, and maybe Ricky didn't get 2 picks in the first round.
He still had to give up more picks to get into the 4th, get his pick back too.
Yeah,
so he had to take those picks and add that in there too.
Yeah, I'll give Dylan credit, man. He got active, and he ended up with 3 first round picks, and then he turned it into that number 4. But when it was all said and done, it was like, dude, you had that.
He literally started with that pick.
Yeah. The second rounder that he gave up, Ricky ended up with it and used it to pick Rondale Moore. The 4th rounder that he gave up, he got it back somehow. I wasn't going to do all that kind of research, but he got it back and he picked Hunter Long. And Sean's second ended up with the underdogs, who picked Kenneth Gainwell. So I kind of look at this like those picks were Etienne, Rondale Moore, Hunter Long, Kenneth Gainwell.
For who?
He's got Harry, White, and Harris. Now 2 of those picks he's got, but he had to pay up to get them back. I look at him like, dude, you would have been better off just staying put.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You guys got any more thoughts on it? It's hard to talk about. And Dylan, man, we love you. I'm glad you're listening to the show now, and he's given us some great feedback, and really appreciate having you as a loyal listener. So we're not, we're not trashing you. We're just saying
that trade fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Well, now
hope you learn from this.
We've had enough time now and we've traded enough picks that we can track these trades now. So of course we're starting with this trade.
Yeah, it's called the trade for a reason.
Yeah. That's cool to look back over. We react to trades as they happen, and sometimes we think it's one way. Later on, it turns out to be another. But it's just the luck of the draw sometimes. But this is one trade where we could look at it and say, dude, you didn't get value back for what you traded for it. So
I also want to point out that James Washington has been a part of some abysmal trades.
Yeah. I was looking at that too.
Every trade he's been a part of has been hot dog shit.
Really, man. I was seeing that too because I had forgotten about it, and I was like, holy shit, did he really do that too? Yeah.
James Washington Hamler in a 2021 second, all for Benny Snell.
Yeah. Washington was part of the all hype team this past season, man.
That trade just killed Stuart Scott again. We brought him back.
Oh man.
Oh Lord. Well, yeah, that's gonna be the rest of our show. Tune in next week where we just bury FNG again in another 6 feet of dirt. All right. One last thing. Wait, what was it? What was that one last thing I need? Oh yeah, Ian, you fucking suck.